Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is after 6:30, so we are going to call to order our October 25th meeting of the Orange County 2021 Advisory Committee for Redistricting. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will stand and join me, the flag is north of me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start with the roll call. Mr. Tico Perez.
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Camille Evans, co-chair, is here. Member Gary Jones. Not yet. Member Ruth Ann Connor King. Present. Thank you. Member Zach Hoover. Member Kilsheimer. Hello. Member Mellon. Member Arias.
Present.
Thank you. Member Callan.
Here.
Member Affont.
Here.
Member Rocha.
Presente.
Presente. Member Hodge is absent. Member Simrod. Member Whittington. Member Hartage. Not yet. All right. Well, before we jump into public comment, we have the honor of being here in District 1 tonight, and we have Commissioner Wilson here. Commissioner Wilson, do you want to take the podium and share some words?
Yes, I was going to say, welcome to beautiful West Orange County. For those of you who don't live out here, it is, the sun came out as I was exiting, and I thought, oh, I'm so glad they're seeing it like this. I know that your days are long endeavoring through this, but this is our democracy in action, and it makes me feel really honored to be in this office at a time where there is redistricting going on, and it makes me feel very grateful to you all for the diligence and dedication that you've shown thus far, and that you're going to continue to work through on the way to the finish line. Obviously the consequences of redistricting affect people all over our country. And when I watch this committee in process, all I can think is if they all worked like this, things would go much better, because it really has been so thoughtful. And I know that sometimes getting all tangled up into the weeds feels uncomfortable, but that is democracy. So I am very, very grateful to our wonderful chairs, to all of the board members that are dedicated to this, and Orange County staff, the Comptroller's office, and of course our amazing lawyer over here. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. We also have Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Moore, you want to greet us?
Good evening. Thank you so much for all of your time and your service to this wonderful endeavor. I know we're here to have to move some folks because Orange County grew and we didn't grow equally, which makes this such a challenging task. I went through this process 10 years ago while I was sitting on the school board, and I can tell you this process now is so much more difficult. And I can remember at that time certain cities just being upset that they had to leave District 1, and here we are again having to, 10 years later, pare more away from District 1, and it's a challenging, difficult time, but I have confidence all of you will do your very best to keep communities together, and remember, the job really is whatever you end up with, that the Orange County Commission and the commissioners and the mayor, that we can serve the people in the best way possible. And so I just want to encourage you, that's the goal, and I thank you again for your service.
Thank you, Commissioner. It is now time for public comment. If you wish to address the committee, you will need to submit a public comment card. So far, we have received 2. The first one I have is for Ms. Patricia Rumpf. If you will approach the podium, confirm your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Patricia Rumpf. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to you tonight. And I'm a resident of the Pine Hills area in District 2. Some refer to it as North Pine Hills because we are north of Silver Star Road, where it used to be in 2000. That was North Pine Hills. And I have a couple of concerns about the maps that I have reviewed and looked at so far. And my concern is that what is happening to the North Pine Hills. Pine Hills total has probably 75 plus residents total together. And so I understand that we need to have two strong commissioners representing Pine Hills because we are in the unincorporated area. And being in the unincorporated area, we need two strong voices. Unlike the municipalities, they have two strong voices. They have a city representing them, and they have a Orange County representing them. So Pine Hills will only have one if we don't have two strong voices. But in order for us to do that, we need to not to continue to draw voters and population from North Pine Hills. Since 2000, I looked at the map. Since 2000, we have been drawing from 7,000 to almost 12,000 voters from North Pine Hills area. And when that happens, that weakens my voice as a voter. That weakens my opportunity to have my voice heard because you're weakening the voter strength in the North Pine Hills area. And I understand that we need to keep District 2 as majority minority, but don't do it on the back of North Pine Hills and District 2. We cannot continue to ignore, because when we ignore what's happening in North Pine Hills, we lose our voice. I've lived in North Pine Hills. I have seen what happened in the last 20 years. As we continue to lose voice and voters in North Pine Hills, we continue to lose that recognition and the work that we need done in North Pine Hills. Because we know in living in the real world, if you don't have voting power, you are ignored. Thank you for this opportunity, and think about North Pine Hills. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rumpf.
Yes.
Our next comment card is the last comment card we have received. So again, if you want to address the committee tonight, please provide one to staff. But we have Ms. Cynthia Harris. Ms. Harris, if you'll approach the podium, confirm your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Harris, 12 Channing Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32811. What concerns me is some issues that I brought up in your last redistricting, that the district that we see today may not be the district 5 years from now. As Ms. Rumpf has stated previously, you're pulling from other districts, but District 6, where I live, it seems to not grow, because there's no room for growth. We have gentrification, and there's six housing projects that are slated to be torn down between now and 2027, according to Department of HUD and the City of Orlando. It was announced about 3 years ago that they would be dissolving these housing projects. That dilutes my voice if we don't have a majority minority, someone who looks like me, someone that can represent me. And what I'm asking to you, to the committee today, is to keep in mind not the maps that are drawn based on the census today, but to project the next 10 years of how District 6 is going to look like. With gentrification pricing out the residents, they are moving to North Pine Hills. They are moving elsewhere, which increases the growth for the other districts while we remain stagnant. The only numbers that we have left to base our numbers from is the county jail, which we all know that in the county jail, although they may be a resident at the time of the census taking, they live elsewhere. They don't always live in our community. So I'm very, very, very concerned that the district that we have today will not reflect within the next 5 to 10 years And when you're drawing your lines for consideration, and when the public has an opportunity to draw their lines for consideration, that you keep those factors in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. That was the last of our comment cards, so that will conclude our public comment for today. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. We will do that at our next meeting, where we will review the minutes for the October 18th meeting. So in the agenda packets for this week, you have Redistricting Plan Proposal 6. I'm sorry.
Madam Co-Chair, did you receive the electronic public comment?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Barrios. I apologize. There was placed on my desk an electronic public comment form from Austin Valley. The topic is College Park, and these materials will be included on the electronic submission, electronic records for our redistricting website. Again, my apologies for mentioning that. We will now move into our information agenda. In your agenda package for consideration as part of the discussion agenda at our next meeting, you have Redistricting Plan Proposal 6, Plan Proposal 7, and Plan Proposal 8. However, for today's discussion agenda, we will move into Redistricting Plan Proposal 3, submitted by Member Whittington, and then we will move into Proposal 4 by Member Whittington, and then Proposal 5 submitted by Member Callan.
Madam Chair, I have a point of order. We have a problem, and we need to address it, I think, before we start discussing these maps. And the problem that we have currently is that the maps are not being published. They are not being published. The public does, no, you received an email which you're giving you the maps of Ms. Willington and the other maps. I've gone to the site and I can't find them. If somebody could tell me where they are in the materials,
I'm going to
the
ask
public
Mr.
is not seeing the maps.
Thank you, Mr. Affont. We received your comment. Mr. Reynolds, will you advise?
Good evening, co-chairs and Mr. Affont. For each meeting, the maps are sent to all of you on Friday evening and then uploaded to the box Tuesday morning. I understand there may have been an issue this past Tuesday morning, and I think there was an oversight, but all of the maps that have been discussed at this committee, aside from last Tuesday, have been uploaded to the box, and tomorrow morning, all of the maps discussed will be uploaded to the box.
So am I to understand that the maps we're going to discuss tonight have not been uploaded for the public to know?
Correct.
I have a problem with that, Mr. Chairman. I think it's inappropriate for us to be discussing maps and coming out here for public comment, and the public doesn't even know the maps until we discuss them here. I think transparency requires us, with all due respect, to have those maps published for the public, so the public can come in here and give us some feedback. And if I'm correct and read our regulations, it's required that these things go forward. We're going to go tonight discussing maps that nobody in the public knows about. And I really strongly object to that.
Mr. Affont, I appreciate your comment. I will echo that I was under the impression that maps, once they were included as part of the information agenda, were made public to the public, and then, of course, that the materials that we were considering as far as discussion would be made available to the public prior to the meeting. So I do apologize, because that may have been an assumption, and you know what happens when you assume. And so I'm going to yield back to Jason, and he can articulate for us what's been going on, and we can then discuss how to move forward.
So what we can do going forward is, when the maps are sent to the body on usually a Friday morning, hopefully as early in the day as possible, that we can upload it to the box at the same time. That we can do that if that's the will of the group.
I absolutely, I'm going to ask my co-chair to chime in, but I will say that I think it's absolutely critical for us to make sure that the public has an opportunity to see it, that same information that we're evaluating to prepare for these meetings, so that that may direct their comments before and after. I will get you all, if you would use, instead of tapping on the microphone, the queue box, I will address you. Thank you. There are other members who are on the queue, so we'll just get you. Thank you. Member Arias. No, okay. Will you clear your queue? Member Callen.
Thank you. I assumed that once I submitted a plan for you all for consideration, that would automatically be posted on the website for people to look at. So I hope you all make that change. I think you should post it as soon as possible as you receive it. Don't wait till Friday afternoon. I think the more information the public has, the better. The sooner, faster. So I join in Jimmy's comments and also the co-chairs. Thank you.
Realize that we received the deadline is Wednesday. I post it or I send it out as soon as it's available. It does take about a day or two for the GIS team to process the map and all the relevant data behind it. So we're not holding it. So we will send it out at the same time we send it to you all, which is usually the earliest time available when we have all of it. Sometimes we're rushing.
If we hit the share map button, does that allow us, as the proposer, to share it with everybody at that point?
It would just be is this mic on?
I think what Christine, it would just be the map. Remember, there's a map, and then there are 3 or 4 pages of data.
Sure.
The data is what the GIS team is putting together.
Thank you.
I think that as soon as something is a part of the informational agenda, it should be made public, and then subsequently, once our agenda package for the discussion is prepared, that it should simultaneously go to the public, as opposed to, as in addition to this. I want to make sure I give Member Rocha an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Do not want to get sideways with any of my fellow members here, but I can assure you that I'm not aware of what the process of uploading the maps is, but I feel confident on our staff that there was no ill intent in the delay. So I encourage all of us to try to keep our comments a little bit down, because definitely do not want to get the public thinking that something wrong is happening. If there was a delay or a day or two, we are discussing the map today. Everybody is welcome to be at the hearing. Again, in my opinion, not having to talk to staff or any other members of this committee, I don't think there was any negative intent in the delay. That's all. Thank you.
Member Affont.
I agree, Mr. Rocha. I don't think there's ill intent. That is not my concern. My concern is that we come out here to receive input from a community that should be seeing these maps well in advance. My map, I received it Friday at 5:07, and I have no problem with it. I'm a member of the committee. But when I ask people in the community what did they think about the maps, and I get to respond, what maps? Because if you go to map proposals, there's only 2 maps. Wes's map and mine, as of today, as of now. I have a problem coming out here and thinking that the community has no objection when the community has never really seen the maps. I'm not criticizing the staff, and if that's what's the understanding, no. But I do have a problem of going forward with maps that the community has not seen when it's a mistake, but it's something that I am it's very problematic for me to say, oh, well, no big deal. They didn't see it. Okay, it's fine. To me, that is not acceptable.
Thank you, Member Affont. Member Perez. I'm sorry, Co-Chair Perez.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Jimmy, first, I appreciate you bringing this up. I was unaware of this. And I guess the question that we need to decide as a committee tonight, number one, this will not happen again. I think we're very clear about that. And certainly, this was a technical issue, not an intentional issue. But number two, do we have the conversation tonight? We're not deciding on maps. We are presenting maps and moving them either forward or not forward. I would argue that if we're not going to move it forward, we may want to wait and not do that next week. But we have 2 choices. We are where we are. we can talk about these maps, correct our situation, and move forward in the future, or we can end this meeting and have six maps to deal with next week. Again, we're not making definitive rulings on any of these three maps at this meeting. We're basically just saying we're going to move it forward for later consideration or not move it forward for later consideration. Is this ideal? No. But I think it's still worth having the conversation, and I would suggest that the only thing that we should possibly not do is not move one of these three maps forward until the next meeting if there's public comment. But I don't want to have brought everybody out here and because of a technical error not be able to do this and overload our next meeting. I think I'm not going to say no harm, no foul. I am going to say we'll get another chance to look at these maps and get that public comment later. So, Madam Co-Chair, I think what we should do is look at these three maps, not reject any of them. That doesn't mean you guys don't have to present, but not reject any of these maps until next week. Find something we want to reject, we can reject it next week at the beginning of the meeting, and then continue with those three maps. That's my thought, Madam Co-Chair.
Yes, that was actually exactly where I was headed as well. I was thinking that to not waste this opportunity to present the information, present it, but perhaps wait until next week to vote on any of them, moving them forward. I'd also like to give those who are presenting an opportunity to share their thought. Member Whittington, do you have a thought?
I do. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. And Mr. Affont, thank you so much for bringing this up. I was under the impression, as were many of the other members here, that when this became public to us, that the public has access. In fact, when Ms. Rump made her comments earlier, I thought she was referring to the maps that are on for tonight. And in this case, she was not. My day job, I deal with public participation, and it's very, very difficult for me to say, let's move forward tonight without the public having had access. Whether they are here is a different story. And so I have to say that I agree with Mr. Affont and would be willing to go a little bit longer next week, understanding that we will have extra maps. And to apologize to the public who's come out tonight without having access to those maps. So I will acquiesce to the pleasure of the committee, but my sense is that we should postpone it.
Member King?
I agree that it's important that these be published to the public, and I appreciate staff's willingness to pivot here and change the process. I don't see the downside of discussing these plans tonight, but I do want to clarify, if we decide not to move forward with a plan, does that mean that it will no longer be visible to the public? I think it should be, even a rejected plan.
It's still visible. There's two categories on the repository,
Okay.
considered no longer being considered.
Right.
But yeah, that's...
So discussing them tonight and deciding whether to move forward or not with them will not make anything less visible to the public. So I don't see any reason not to discuss them.
Madam Co-Chair, it's my understanding that we're discussing and not determining anything. It's just a presentation.
Right now, that is now a question that has not been officially moved or anything, but that's what we're currently just kind of discussing. Member Arias, I saw your name earlier, but I don't see it now. Were you on the queue? Yes. Okay, I want to make
Yes,
sure.
I was.
Okay.
You had meant, before I make my comment, though, you were very astute in saying that you'd like to hear from the presenters tonight. We've heard from Ms. Whittington, and thank you very much, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Cowan, see how he feels about presenting tonight. Tom?
I'm not here next week, and so I'm out of town, so I'd prefer just to present it tonight, and you all can take a look at it. The more I look at it, the more I think I can make some changes to it, like everything else in life. But I'd just as soon make a presentation and talk about the numbers and talk about the lines that are drawn and discuss the pluses and minuses of this proposal.
All right, so then along those lines, if Tom is willing to present, I understand that Ms. Whittington is not, but...
That's not what she said.
Well,
No, I said I would acquiesce to the will of the committee.
But I think you're leaning towards postponing.
I was leaning towards postponing, given what I do during the day.
I understand. As long as we allow the public to review it and then make comments at a later time, I don't see a problem. As long as we tell the public that they're open to make a public comment on these maps at a later date.
Okay, and I'm going to give Member Simrad an opportunity as well.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I think that logistically speaking, it makes sense to present tonight, and to move forward. However, I also know as an individual that if I were to have heard a public comment this evening pertaining to some of these maps, my discussion around them might be shaped differently. So I think it's in the best interest of the public if they had the opportunity to review them like we did and come on the day that they were being presented, before we were listening to the presentation, to provide public comment that we could then keep in our mind while we listen to the presentation. Otherwise, we're operating without public input in the formation of our ideas, which I don't believe is right. Thank you.
Member Arias, you're on the queue. Was that?
I had my chance to speak. Thank you.
Okay.
I forgot to. Yes, I'm good. Thanks.
All right. Well, we've heard from those of us who wanted to share, and we've heard from the presenters. I am particularly sensitive to the importance of public comment. I'm also particularly sensitive to the fact that the people who are here in this room have come to hear what's on our agenda tonight. I have to agree with my co-chair that I think that the best method for us for this evening, while it's not ideal, and we absolutely apologize to the public because that was a misstep, that I think there was just miscommunication among the members of the committee and our staff. My recommendation is that we move forward with hearing and having the discussion. We withhold any votes on these three proposals, and we include on our next agenda those same three proposals in addition to the first six. To the other three, so there will be six, so that there's an opportunity for the public to actually be commenting on things that are on the agenda.
And so, Madam Chair, if I may ask a question, at the next meeting then, the public who's not here tonight, how would they be included in the discourse next week?
I think the
because
only
because the presentation will have been made this week.
I don't disagree that they're not physically here. They may not be physically here at the next meeting, but that is why we have the electronic comment option, and why we provide all of our meetings on social media, live, Orange TV, what have you. I don't disagree with you. It's less than ideal, but I don't want to steal the opportunity from those who are here. Okay. I have Member Alfont.
Suggestion that you just made, I know it would be kind of harsh, but it might be a good idea that we do like a summary of what we're going to do tonight, so those new people can see it. Because last week, Orange TV, we had some issues that it was not all fully transmitted. So relying on social media has not been exactly the best experience. If we could just, and this is a suggestion, taking from what Virginia said, and I appreciate it, that we just do a summary for those who come in next week of your proposal, of your two proposals. Unfortunately, Tom's not going to be here to do his, but he might be able to delegate that to somebody else. But it would be respectful of those who come next week to a different area of this county for them to have a summary of what's going on, because they would not, the whole purpose of this meeting is for the people of West Orange to come and talk. The purpose of the next meeting, I think, is in Colonial High School. That's District 3, for those people to talk. So, people go to in their area. They don't go to each six, even though I do see 2 or 3 exceptions here to that rule.
I'm sorry. Co-Chair Perez.
Madam Co-Chair, I have a suggestion, and hopefully we can agree to this. Virginia, I appreciate your flexibility on this, and I fully agree that this is unfortunate. At the same time, I want to respect the folks who came out and our committee. who came out and drove across town for this meeting. My suggestion or my proposal would be that we go ahead and present on these three maps, that no action is taken tonight on these three maps other than the presentation and the discussion, that at our next meeting we can give Virginia 3 or 4 minutes on each map to give a summary, not an additional 15-minute conversation following that public comment, and that we move Tom's map, because he won't be here, to the meeting 2 weeks from now when he will be here, and just hold his map in limbo until that happens. Because I think it's important that our presenters have the right to present. I think it's more important that our public has the right to review the maps, look at them, and provide public comment. Again, it's not ideal, but I think it serves our purposes and it moves the ball forward for us as a committee. And I would propose that as an option, and hope to hear from others if that works. But we can hold Tom's map in abeyance next week, and he can present when he comes back.
I like that approach. Mr. Cowan, I see you're on our queue before we officially move forward, if that's a motion.
Just what we've done so far, the procedure's been to get public comment ahead of the map presentations. And so I'm fine with however the committee decides today what to do.
So I would like to move forward with my co-chair's recommendation. And is there anyone on our committee who would be woefully opposed?
I'll make the motion.
Sure, Member Rocha. Is there a second?
What's the motion?
The motion is to move forward, with what Co-Chair Perez said, which is to have the presentations and the discussions tonight. No vote being made on either of proposals 3, 4, or 5. And that also we will, at our next meeting, have proposals 3 and 4 from you brought forward again with a summary review and opportunity for public comment. And then Member Callan's proposal 5 will be moved to the next meeting when he's present. We had a motion from Member Rocha and a second from, was that Member Arias? All right. Commissioner Hardage.
Yes, Madam Co-Chair,
will you push the red?
Would you accept an amendment to that motion to allow the board member to give a summary at the next meeting of her two proposals?
That's included in there. That's
okay.
Included, yeah. Hearing no further, seeing no further discussion, I'd like to go ahead and ask for all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you, Member Simrad. Again, before we move forward, and thank you, Member Whittington, because you've been sitting at the podium for this whole entire time, I do want to just reiterate my apology on behalf of this committee, to the members of the public here watching online, and those who may not, have tuned in as of yet. Again, public participation is very important to us, and it is absolutely our intention to make sure that you are lockstep with us as we are doing this process. So again, our apologies. And Member Whittington, you have 5 minutes. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, Proposal 3. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Co-Chair, and Mr. Co-Chair, and those of you who are here in the public, thank you so much for being here this evening. Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Wilson, thank you. Tonight, what you are going to see in the terms of these two proposals, and I'd like to kind of take them in tandem if I can, because there's very insignificant difference between the two of them. Just want to reiterate to the public, the charge that we have is to balance the population is first and foremost, and to get to an ideal number of 238,138. If that number is coming off my head correctly. And as it currently stands, District 1 finds itself at almost nearly 13% over when it comes to the current population. And District 4 is 9.5%, nearly 10% over. And then those who are under are Districts 2, 3, 5, and 6. This was not an easy exercise. I mean, going in, not only do you look at numbers, but when you click on a census block, there's some things in there that come up that you were not expecting. And so we're having to look at a lot of different variables as we go through this exercise. And so what you see with District 6 is basically where I started. And on Proposal 3, we took into account moving north into the Apopka into District 2. Ms. Rump, I heard your concerns. I understand your concerns about the Pine Hills area having more than one representative. But what ends up happening is that when we come to the numbers, it ended up with District 1 at 236 and 52, District 2 at 238, 108, District 3, 238, 772, District 5, 236, 413, and District 6, 241, 741. Other considerations that we had to consider were municipalities and census designated places that are within each of those districts. And so what you end up finding with District 1 and 2, much of the population shifts that I have proposed are between Districts 1 and 2 and between Districts 2 and 6. Much of what is happening on 3, 4, and 5 pretty much stayed stable. I must say that there was one portion of District 6 in the Clarcona area that's on this particular map that brings in 218 residents in Clarcona. A little bit of maneuvering could put those back and keep Clarcona whole. In District 2, we moved a portion of Eatonville into District 5, or recommended, recognizing that the cities of Winter Park, Maitland, and Eatonville typically work really, really well together, and hoping that that would continue. In the proposal for number 3, I recommended shifting a couple of hundred people from District 2 to District 5 in the Fairview Shores area. And in Gotha, which was wholly in District 1 previously, I recommended moving about 32%, or 720 people, into District 2. Lockhart stayed whole in District 2. And Maitland, I recommended shifting 30% of the population from District 5 into District 2. And the town of Oakland, I recommended shifting 100%, all of Oakland, from District 1 into District 2. Something happened that was unintended with regard to the city of Ocoee. I did not intend to have that 0.10%, those 48, and the legal analysis showed that it would probably be better to place those 48 people out of District 6 into District 2. That was one of those click and pull errors that happened. And then in the Pine Hills area, again, shifting some of District 2 into District 6. Winter Garden, recommending shifting about 50% of Winter Garden from District 1 into District 2, and then all of Winter Park into District 5. Now, with those, the other consideration was, although District 6 appears to have the most or the majority of the people, when you look and consider voting age in that population, if District 6 loses any more than what is being proposed, or significantly more, that voting age goes down. It goes down significantly. And so we want to also consider that. The difference between the committee proposal 4 and committee proposal 5 is the District 2 Claricona, again, keeping that whole. I think that was one of the major changes between 3 and 4. There was also the difficulty with selecting census blocks, that sometimes you select a road and you don't know it, and it shows up after you have submitted. And so some minor adjustments along the 417 could easily flush that out. And also, and that's on both, that ended up on both of those committee proposals, 3 and 4. And also, there was a zero population piece in 3, I think it was, that was called out, that could easily be adjusted either to District 2 or District 1. I think it was in Proposal 3, that there was just a little piece of zero that was in District 6. I think it was in District 6, but it should be in District 2. And that is the proposal on both maps. And the recommendations that came as a result of the legal analysis, I totally agree with, and am willing to go back to the drawing board if necessary, if these maps are brought forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Whittington. Given that 3 and 4 are so similar, I think it makes sense for us to proceed with the conversation with 3 and then identifying nuances for 4. But at this time, we will transition to our 15-minute clock. I'm sorry, legal review. Thank you. I did it again. Ms. Barrios.
Good evening. So basically, Virginia did a really great job of breaking down the different analysis that I had done in my packet. The splits between her proposal 3, which we haven't talked about 4 yet, but she did mention 4. There is not major differences between the two maps. There are new district splits in Claricona, Eatonville, Gotha, Maitland, Ocoee, and Winter Garden that Virginia already discussed. The minor little piece of Ocoee, if the committee, when it does make its decision at a subsequent meeting, wanted to move that population in, if they were to consider moving forward with this specific map, staff would need a little bit of direction, because as you can see on committee attachment 1, there may have to be some additional population taken in to make that correction. But we could make it with just that little piece that's highlighted in red. It just might look a little strange on the map. So that's a consideration that staff would need further direction on. So,
and Madam Co-Chair, that's committee proposal 3, attachment 1.
Yeah,
it has the 48 people.
And you agree with making, are you suggesting that that's what you would say, move it to District 2?
2.
Just the part in red, or?
It depends. When you go in
I know.
and you click, it could bring more of a census block than that appears to be.
That is the census block. So what's highlighted are the 3 census blocks that are in Ocoee that are in District 6. So it could be an addition of the blocks that are above it, the 122, 34, 60, 62 blocks. But we would just need further direction, which we could get at the meeting where a decision is made, if this is the map that the committee wants to move forward with. In terms of moving whole populations, the population of Oakland, as Virginia said, is moved from District 1 to District 2. populations that are fully consolidated. Currently, 1.67% of Winter Park is in District 2, and Virginia's Proposal 3 does merge those populations into District 5, consolidating them into one district. And then there's the Fairview Shores shifting of population, and then there is cleaning up of a zero population block from Lockhart. The main message from legal is just that little piece, if the committee wants to consider it, and how the committee would want to consider it moving forward.
Is that it, Ms. Barrios?
That is
okay.
it, yes.
You were still flipping pages, so I wasn't sure. Thank you. At this time, we'll move forward with our 15 minutes of discussion. Does anyone have some initial questions or comments for Member Whittington? Member Simrod.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Thank you, Member Whittington, for your presentation. I had some comments. Some comments regarding the proposal and concerns. So I'm just reading them in no particular order, but the overall theme here of my comments is going to be that some communities are split, and or some are put into more than one district that I think have some historic importance and should be left intact. I'll begin first with Eatonville. Eatonville currently is all in District 2, and in your proposed map, it's split between District 2 and District 5. Eatonville is one of the oldest African American towns in the country. It has a lot of rich history, and I'm concerned about splitting that voter representation in Eatonville, and so concerned that almost just that would be justification in my mind for not supporting this particular map. The second one is Gotha. Gotha is in District 1. It's a rural settlement. Rural settlements, they underwent a special study to protect the rural character and the rural community of particular areas within Orange County. Notoriously, the rural communities are, you get a landowner that buys and wants to rezone it, build in it, and you get a lot of community opposition, and it becomes difficult when there's two overlooking commissioners within that area because they may not agree and may not best represent the interests of preservation of rural communities. I would like to say that I really liked how you kept Oakland in one district. As Vice Chair of Save Orange County, we've heard a lot from Oakland residents in the past, not recently, just struggling with getting representation under a different commissioner. And then I'd like to say that I liked your distribution of Winter Garden. Winter Garden is hard to manage, particularly when you're in the map system, so I liked that split that you did there. And finally, I'd like to say that with District 5 and Winter Park, I also liked what you did there. The Pine Hills, I heard the public comment before, and I have to say, I'm concerned after I heard her comment. I didn't look at it as though it was that big of a deal, but it sounds like that could be a concern to that community. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Simrod. I have Member Mellon up next.
All right, thank you. I got three issues. One being the big enclave on the side. It turns it in from a compact area to a non-compact, and it looks, I don't know, almost gerrymandered when most of that boot can just go into 6, and we don't have to keep taking away from 2 that needs to gain 20,000 residents. I believe some of this, we're needlessly moving citizens from one county or one district to another when that wasn't the intent in the first place. And obviously, Ocoee, it would be really nice to see Ocoee as one commission district, which would be District Number 2. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Do we have any other members who wish to speak on Proposal 3 at this time? Member Arias.
I have a question for Ms. Whittington, and correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm looking at Committee Proposal Map 3, correct? That's the one we're reviewing right now. And the purple and white polka dotted line runs along District 3, Lee Vista Boulevard, and Chickasaw. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
in
then,
District 3.
Right, in District 3.
That is the current boundary.
Correct. That's the current boundary. So then my understanding of your map is that you extended that boundary all the way to 528 and then cut it across to 417. And then at 417, it has kind of a little unique, I guess, drawback and then come back around.
Yes.
I would like to understand, and I think you did a great job, I'd like to understand the reasoning behind the extension from that particular boundary of Lee Vista Boulevard and Chickasaw all the way to the 417 and the 528. I'd like to know your reasoning behind that. Could you explain that to me?
Similar to the previous two presenters, or at least one of them that I recall, was looking at what seemed to be logical highways, roadways that would make sense. Unfortunately, with this one, there was an unintended selection of that portion of 417 that did not yet, the one that drops down and comes back up, and that was not intentional. What was intentional was to try and bring it down to the 417, and I was able to do it on my highlighter, but this is one of the discussions that we need to have in how we can make that more contiguous as opposed to the unusual shape that it gives.
So should that actually, if I were to follow that little weird hook that goes out to the right with the little point, was that point supposed to come down to the bottom point where the 528 is?
Yes.
And I should have disregarded the black paint that goes up 417?
That was the intent.
All right, I understand. Thank you.
One point of interest, though, is that the reason why it's drawn that way is not an error on Ms. Whittington's behalf. It's actually the way that the census block is drawn by the U.S. Census. That little piece is attached to a block that is adjacent, that's quite large. You can see it in Committee Proposal 3, Attachment 2. So fixing or correcting that little hitch at that southeastern corner of District 3 can't quite be done without some pretty significant changes because of just the way that the census drew that block.
I appreciate staff's clarification, and in no way was I trying to tell you, Ms. Whittington, that you did a bad job. But
no,
I understand. I got it. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation.
Thank you. Member Afont.
I want to congratulate you, and I'm happy to see that I'm not the only one who was frustrated with the software. And I mean that respectfully. My only concern is as follows. We've been hearing from the people from Ocoee and from others that they want Ocoee to be in District 2. I think this is the second time I've heard it in this meeting. And I have to respect the representative of Ocoee voicing that because that's what I intend to do for 4. What I meant by roads, they do create a problem. Right now, we want to talk traditional. Ever since I can remember, Winter Garden and Oakland have been in District 1. We're about to split them up because we're using the highway and not, and that concerns me. We're putting Oakland from 1 into 2. I'm not sure if that's something, but we still leave divided Ocoee. We don't address that. Ocoee's still divided. And it's interesting, but I think you had the same problem I had with Gotha, that when you try to get the census little thingies, they just pull Gotha into Ocoee. Don't ask me why they did that in the census, but apparently that's been my experience. But my concern is a little bit different. I'm concerned that we're splitting up communities, and one that I'm extremely concerned about is right now creating a almost 50-50 split with Eatonville, which has never occurred, and now having two commissioners to deal with Eatonville. And my experience is that when there's two commissioners, and I apologize to the commissioners, it kind of becomes chaotic because people will call the commissioner thinking that's the one that rules there, but no, it's across the street. You have to call the other one, and so that's why I'm kind of reluctant to divide them. So I would have to say my only major concerns about the map is splitting up Winter Garden, splitting up Ocoee, putting Oakland into District 2, and continue splitting up other areas. I understand what you did with Pine Hills. I did something similar. I don't see in any other way 6 to grow without going to Pine Hills. I know where Patricia's coming from. I've known Patricia for years, and I appreciate her comments, but I understand what you're doing. So in that part, I want you to understand that I would agree with you. But again, I know that roads are practical, but communities do not go by roads. I could take Meadowwoods in District 4, and if you take, for example, Lancaster, at each side of Lancaster is Meadowwoods. So if you use that as a line, that's problematic. 1 and 4 have been divided for years using Orange Blossom Trail, and I don't see a problem with that because basically it's so large that the people across the street are not necessarily walking into each other's house, like in Meadowwoods. So with that in mind, I have no other comments.
Thank you, Member Callen.
Member Whittington, very good map. There are a lot of parts here I really like what you did. One of the challenges we had, you hit it head on, was if we're going to grow District 6 and from District 2, then we're reducing the African American population in District 2. And as soon as you bring in Winter Garden, Ocoee to balance the numbers to the south, then you increase the number of percentage of white voters in District 2 as well. So District 2, because we have this charge to equalize the population while still maintaining District 6, District 2 will appear to be less diverse, and all the plans I've seen so far, including yours, than beforehand. So I understand that. I still have a problem, and I think you hit it too as well on Fairview Shores and the area on OBT north of 50 to Lee Road. That area dips down into District 2, so that's one change I would make a modification to. Also, a couple other things here or there on District 3 and District 4, and how you move a line over there. So I thought it was well done, and there's a lot here to us to discuss, and I think this would be part of our plan we look at in the future. So I would move this one on. But.
Thank you, Member Callen. Member Arias. Commissioner Hardage.
Yes, thank you. Great job. It's an excellent map. It gives us a lot to work with. I agree with you that a few tweaks here and there might be in place. The comments about Gotha, I think, are well placed, but there are 4 or maybe 4 or 5 townships that are probably going to be in the same situation, and 4 of them would be Eatonville, Gotha, Tildenville, Oakland, and for some reason I think there are a couple other townships. So the townships are particularly interesting in the nature of their community. So I think that might be one of the tweaks that we could possibly do. And of course, maintaining Eatonville back into District 2 would be an important point as well to get it passed. But I think overall, great job. Great job.
Thank you. Member Rocha.
Just want to follow up with my committee members. Good map. For the record, I think it's more than obvious that a lot of individuals sitting here are opposed of breaking neighborhoods or areas. So I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. But I like the map. Thank you.
Go ahead, Member Hardage.
Yeah, just one other comment. Sometimes roads and highways do make excellent boundaries, so I don't think we should rule them out. And with some of our larger communities, we're not going to have any choice except to create reasonable boundaries that split them between 2 commissioners. So I don't think that should be an impediment to us passing on a good map. I just thought I would add that comment.
Thank you. Member Jones?
Just a clarification. Did I hear right or see right that Maitland is split on this one? That's one of the towns that we divided or was divided?
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Member Simrod, did you have another comment? Okay.
Madam Co-Chair, would I be able to respond to some?
Yes, I was going to suggest that since we are evaluating two proposals that we extend the time, so go ahead.
I appreciate all of the feedback. One of the other issues that we deal with when we are responding is that we've submitted these maps 2 weeks ahead of time, and then public comments come up that you hear that you, again, wish that you had heard before you get to this place. All of this is very valuable feedback. One of the things that I mentioned early on when we started was that, since we are in a position of having a conversation about these, there are tweaks that can be made along the way. Certainly understand about the rural settlement, and if there are 700 or 800 people who could easily be moved from one district to another, then it makes sense, and I'm certainly open to that, which is the reason that you see a very minor difference between map 3 and map 4 that I have presented. Again, there are unintended occurrences that happen when you start selecting, and again, I encourage the public strongly. You have the opportunity to get in and use this software for yourself. So if there's something that you really do not agree with, or there's something that you are wondering if it would work, the software is open. You can go to the website and try it out yourself, get a committee member to sponsor your map. Some of the best laid plans have come from those who are not seated around the table here. And so I would just really encourage that. And again, thank you for the feedback, and I look forward to considering the other maps.
Thank you, Member Whittington. I just want to add that I think that we all rather not split communities, and I think the more maps we evaluate, there's going to come a point in time where we're going to have to face a difficult truth that at some point that those lines were going to need to be drawn in a way that may not achieve that for every single community. But I respect that the members of this committee are mindful of the feedback we're receiving. But I agree. Thank you for your efforts on 3 and 4. And just to be clear for the public, we will bring these forward at the discussion agenda at the very next meeting. And give Member Whittington again an opportunity to summarize the proposals. And at that point, we will, of course, receive public comment, and then as a committee decide whether or not we move forward with these. Ms. Barrios.
Just a point for clarification from legal. There is no goal or objective right now of making District 6 a minority-majority district. Currently, the district, based on population shifts, is not a majority-minority district. It did lose its status through population shifts. In order to have that objective, an analysis would have to be done to show that it meets the VRA, the Voting Rights Act requirements, as discussed, the 3 of them that we talked about several times thus far. Right now, the goal and objective of the committee is to, based on race-neutral determinations, draw a map. I did create this card that each of the committee members have in front of them. Please do not take them home with you, because we're collecting them and putting them back in front of you after every meeting. On the card, in the orange box, is the main factors that the committee needs to really consider. There will be a findings of fact that this committee needs to enter into record and evidence when we do get a recommendation, and you do approve a recommendation, that will be based on these race-neutral traditional redistricting standards. And so in the box with the highlights would be where that kind of conversation about the maps needs to focus more primarily on when we're talking about the maps. And that's it.
Thank you, Member Barrios. Thank you, Member Whittington. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Barrios. Mr. Callen, are you ready to? Mr. Callen, you will have 5 minutes from Proposal 5.
Okay, thank you. Following up with what Ms. Whittington's map does, I drew a line between District 2 and District 5 at 434 Forest City Road, which is John Young Parkway. So then all of Eatonville and Maitland stays in District 5. The area, it's an unincorporated county that are adjacent to the municipal boundaries between 434 and I-4, also in District 5 as well. I take out that pocket of District 2 that goes down to College Park. That gets subsumed into District 6 and District 5. Instead of having what Mr. Hodges' plan was to put Maitland in District 2, I thought with the historical between Popka, Ocoee, and Winter Garden is group them. So I put town of Oakland in District 2, and I put a large portion of Winter Garden, the portion even going all the way down to the 429, into District 2. That was purely for numbers, to equalize the districts. I kept the Ocoee line at the Turnpike. I have some history on what Ocoee south of the Turnpike is. That was Windermere wouldn't extend utilities years ago. Ocoee did, because they needed water and sewer down there. And so those people there in Gotha kind of identify themselves as Windermere more so than Ocoee. So I kept that area south in Ocoee, that's south of 429, as well as in Winter Garden, kept that in District 1 because I think that identifies Windermere in the general term. The plans there take the population demographics have stayed the same, although it was in the before with District 2, 72,000 black population. It goes down to 63,000, my proposal. Very similar in kind to Mrs. Whittington's plan as well. The more you try to equalize District 2 and District 6, you're finding that you're losing the black population in District 2. And that's Ms. Rump has alluded to that, and that's a concern we have too as well. But it's a 9,000 person reduction from 72,000 to 63,000. The big difference in this map is you're going from the white population District 2 goes from 80,000 to 100,000. So there is that kind of a tweaking of the radio dial trying to keep the balances of the districts the same. District 6 increased a little bit to the north. In Pine Hills, very similar to what others have proposed. The big change here was how I viewed the county. Just taking a look at it. The county has really grown in a vertical fashion, not horizontal. You have portions in District 4 that are 30-year-old subdivisions, South Chase Meadowwoods, established neighborhoods, infill. That's District 3. For the compactness, the community issues, I thought District 3 would be better to be expanded to the south, the county line, southwest of the airport. I also then took some of the, to balance that out demographically with Hispanic population, took areas that were formerly in District 3 and District 5, gave us a District 4. And so that roughly equaled out the balance of that on a population basis and actually favors District 4 with a voting population basis. So the more voters will be transferred to District 4 from District 3, balancing it out more of a linear fashion. The line is drawn generally around Goldenrod Road between District 3 and District 4. Now there are 3 pockets there. I spent like 3 or 4 hours trying to deal with those 3 nodules you see there. And it's on the 408, and I've gone back and forth, put that in 5, put this in 4, put this in 3. The numbers are big, and they swing the numbers by 10% when you do that. And so I may want to take a look at that and make another shot with that. District 4, I felt, looking at the map, at what's going on there, Lake Nona, the growth of Lake Nona, the transformation from a rural to suburban area, I felt that was District 4, and that's their district. So I kept the new and emerging development into the southeast part of the county, try to keep it in District 4 in that area. That was one of the principles I had here as well. I have a couple notes here, make sure I covered all my notes. Demographically, the numbers come back very good. The deviation is 3%, which is acceptable. And I think it does some good things here. I think having Eatonville with District 5 versus District 2 is more appropriate. And in the District 2, I think putting all the communities around Lake Apopka is really good. I think Lake Apopka really needs a strong commissioner for a Lake Apopka interest, and that's why I think that was a good part about this plan. And I think I have 4 seconds, or no, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Callan. Ms. Barrios, do you want to provide our legal analysis, please?
Yes, the legal analysis on this proposal number 5 has. So we have in the splits of populations, we have Alafaya is being split between District 4 and 5. Currently is split between District 3. The map does cure a minor discrepancy where District 3 had 27 people and Alafaya living in it, and then splits District 5 and 4, the Alafaya population. Azalea Park does get split 3 ways, but it's, as noted in the legal this analysis, it's this tiny piece that is in Committee Proposal 5 Attachment 1 along Colonial Drive that has 16 population. That could be really easily moved into District 5 to prevent that 3-way split in Azalea Park. Otherwise, Azalea Park has been split into 2. Buffalo has been split into 2 by this map. Christmas has been split into 2 by this map. Winter Garden has been split into 2. The population has been split into 2 on this map. Moving into the populations fully moved to new district, it does move Meadowwoods into District 3 from District 4, Oakland into District 2 from District 1, Rio Pinar from District 4 to from District 3 to District 4, South Chase from District 4 to District 3, Taft from District 4 to District 3, Tildenville from District 1 to District 2, and Wedgefield from District 5 to District 4. Again, those are whole population movements, they're not splits. And then the map also consolidates the populations of pre-existing splits, including the Belle Isle population that was the 3 people who were in District 4 are now with the rest of Belle Isle in District 3. Fairview Shores, what is now joined, it was split between District 2 and District 5. The population is now all in District 5. Holden Lakes, which was split between District 3 and District 6, the whole population is now in District 3. And Winter Park, which was split between District 2 to District 5, is now wholly in District 5. And then there are some other population adjustments that are listed, and the map does correct or does address some zero population parcels along the boundary of District 2 and District 5 in Lockhart and the boundary of District 2 and District 5 in Maitland, bringing those populations and the zero population blocks, which are just geography, typically business parcels or vacant land, into District 2. Otherwise, there just are a couple of pieces that staff was highlighted that may want to be fixed in terms of corrections on the map. Again, staff does this as a courtesy. We don't pick every single one of them, but there are some that when we do see them as we're doing our analysis, we'd like to point out those little fixes. And they are found in attachments 2, 3, and 4 of Committee Proposal 5. And that is it.
Thank you. At this time, we'll start our 15 minutes of discussion on Proposal 5. I first have Commissioner Hardage.
Again, this might be one of our better nights for maps, from my opinion, of course. But the items that I like the most are also the ones that create great questions. I like the fact that Oakland is all together, Tildenville is all together, actually Eatonville is all together. But the shift in those and Tildenville and Eatonville, and Tildenville and Oakland might be of some concern to those communities, even though I think that's a good part of the map. I'm interested in knowing what the board member thinks that makes Eatonville more appropriate for District 5 and District 2, and just some other small tweaks maybe.
I just heard it was geographically, I believe, and then the other part was that Maitland seems to have grown towards 434, Forest City Road, and Eatonville is with there as well, and that seems to be more of an urban infill area as opposed to District 2, which again is a rural to emerging suburban area. So I just kind of looked at it from that principle solely. The actual number of African Americans in Eatonville and that numbers are relatively small, like 1,200, 300, as I recall. When I switched them back and forth, I went back and forth several times with it, so it wasn't a big number. The big number that skews District 2 is once you start including Ocoee and Winter Garden to balance the numbers. That's what makes District 2 more white than it is today number-wise, the percentages at. And so I don't know how we get around that while increasing District 6 to the north to Claricona-Ocoee Road. So those are kinds of things. It's kind of the variables, the radio dial, the old radio dial, and that. So I put Eatonville. I thought that would be appropriate. Just a suggestion. Put the whole area there with Maitland and with Winter Park. And I understand they get along pretty well and they work well together on things, so I thought that would be good to have a common county commissioner to move forward what their issues are with the county.
And next have Member Arias.
That has to be an old one.
Member Simrod.
So is just so we don't do that again, is my name off?
Yes, you're off now.
Thank you. Thank you for the map presentation. My comments have three main themes. The first one pertains to splitting some communities, and I'll get to those in a minute. Also splitting rural settlements, and the third is relocating entire communities, which I'm in support of when we have to do it, but then we have an issue where we have a community that didn't vote for the serving commissioner, which is concerning. So if I go down some of my points, I like that Claricona was all kept in one. I like that Eatonville was all kept in District 5, but it moved. So now you would have a whole community that wouldn't be represented by the commissioner that they voted for. In terms of Bithlo and Christmas, that's my backyard, that's my community, and they're both also rural settlements. So to see Bithlo and Christmas distributed across both 4 and 5, that is something that is that I cannot support. Particularly, I mean, they both have similar issues in terms of some social structures, and they both have both advantages and disadvantages. And to split Bithlo down the middle by using Highway 50, that area was once incorporated. It was a city. The slogan is a community with pride. Those people, I mean, we know each other. I don't support splitting Bithlo or Christmas. In addition, Wedgefield was completely moved. Wedgefield is a unique community. Again, it's a rural settlement. I appreciate that it was all moved into one district, but again, you have residents who would then be all represented by a commissioner they didn't vote for. In addition, Hal Scott Preserve is out there, which is and I think, I can't really tell from the map, but I think that split of District 4 and 5 puts Hal Scott Preserve in 2 different districts. Finally, the District 5, with all of it being Winter Park, having all of Winter Park in District 5, I thought was something that was good from this map. Based on Bithlo and Christmas being separated, this is not a map that I would move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I next have Member King.
Thank you. I thought this was a really interesting map, and I share some of the concerns that we've already heard, particularly splitting Bithlo and Christmas. Actually, I'm always concerned about splits. I'm equally concerned here about the numbers of the populations that would be moved by fully moving some of the list of neighborhoods that you have here, kind of offset by where you were able to fully consolidate another list of neighborhoods. So I think it's interesting, and I think it points out the problem that we have, and that we are going to, in order to achieve the population redistribution that we have to, we're going to have to deal with some of these problems. I do think there's some sore thumbs here, but overall I think it's an excellent map and very interesting approach to the solution. Thank you.
Member Kilsheimer.
Thank you. I guess my comments are a little bit more general in nature and not necessarily specific to this map, because I haven't completed a map of my own. So congratulations to everyone who has actually completed a map. But I am speaking as a 50-year resident of Orange County, and having grown up here and grown up seeing the communities that naturally tend to gravitate toward each other. I believe, for example, that Ocoee and Apopka belong together in the same district. There is a natural affinity between Ocoee and Apopka, and it's just both of these communities have kind of grown up together. Winter Garden seems to me to be the more natural anchor of District 1. Everybody who kind of lives on in that corner of the county kind of looks to Winter Garden as a place to go for dinner, to go shopping at Fowler's Grove. Again, in terms of communities that have a natural affinity toward each other, I think Eatonville naturally blends into Maitland, which naturally blends into Winter Park. And I think that that those communities belong together. Figuring out how to keep Pine Hills, together, and as giving Pine Hills as much consideration as possible. That is a absolute challenge. And then I also I agree that District 3 has turned into more of a suburban community. I grew up in District 3. I kind of regard District 3 as being, for lack of a better term, the Conway District, because that's the area that I grew up in. So I'm going to be, when I turn my map in, I'm going to be trying to keep the communities of Orange County that have a natural affinity toward each other together. Thank you.
Thank you. I next have Member Arias.
I believe you keep mistaking me for Mr. Alfont. I have not touched.
Perhaps your remotes are.
It must be the beer.
Correctly.
So here, give me that remote.
Give me that remote. Okay.
You would like an opportunity, Member Alfont? Is that what I hear? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to start by saying that I have serious problems with this map. You're taking communities that have been traditionally District 3 for years, ever since I can remember, Asadia Park, and splitting it up. You're taking Meadowwoods that, since its foundation, has been in District 4 and moving it into District 3. You're taking Rio Pinal, that's always been District 3, and putting it in District 4. You're taking South Chase, that's in District 4, and putting it in District 3. You're taking Taft, that's been in District 4, and putting it in District 3. I have two concerns. It's not only about roads. Roads are important, but also people knowing who their commissioner is. For years, people of Asadia Park know that it's District 3. and now we're going to say, well, we're going to do something, and I hate to use the word because the word as an Hispanic was not meant as a compliment. Compactness was the way that kept us out of the ballots. It was not meant as a way to make things work for the minorities. Compact and fracking was the words that they used in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and part of the 90s to keep us out. You would compact a neighborhood and take 10% of the minorities, put them in the 5 different neighborhoods, and then they had no strength. So compactness to me has no meaning. And for the record, our council's told us, and every time, we do not have to use it as a guide, and I don't think we should. But I have to say this. Tico said that the reason they rejected the map is because it was 2. That's not correct, Tico. The reason they rejected the map is because they made substantial changes, and many commissioners did not feel comfortable losing the backbone of their strength to another commissioner. Right now, one of the best working relationships that exists is Tony Ortiz and Mayra Uribe. I'm very proud of that. This map will eliminate that completely. She will be out of District 2 of the city totally, and she would have no reason. Just to bring you to a board, Meadowworks right now is working with Lake Nona for library for both of them. You're going to turn around and say, okay, now a new commissioner has to come in and pick up where the other one left. That's why I've been trying to say we need to make this the least disturbing that we can. In good faith, I cannot sit here and let the residents of District 4 think that, especially Meadowwoods, that we are okay with them leaving District 4, because we are not. Thank you.
Ms. Barrios, do you want to?
Yes, just a point of clarity. Compactness is something that needs to be considered. Again, on the card, in the orange box, are the things that the committee should be considering and balancing. That does not mean that the committee can't make a decision that they prefer other traditional redistricting principles to compactness, so that keeping a community of interest might perhaps be more important than compactness, but compactness is going to be one of the determinations that this committee has to make a finding of facts on the recommended proposal that says that they believe that this map is as compact as possible while balancing the rest of the traditional redistricting principles.
Thank you, Ms. Barrios. Mr. Perez, Co-Chair Perez, my Lord.
I just want to say I don't know what you were talking about, Jimmy, when you were telling me I said something. I hadn't said anything about rejecting 1 or 2 maps or anything of that nature. So I don't know what you were talking about. I just want to be clear for the record. I don't think I said that.
All right, I have Member Semrad. No? Okay, Member Kilsheimer. I think we're getting support from the back office team, and it's doubling up on efforts. Member Callan, we got a minute or so left, and I just had a quick question for you. If you could walk us through the changes you made between Districts 3 and 6. I'm particularly interested in the north, well, I guess at the eastern boundary of 6, and the changes there between 3 and 6, and then also on that southern eastern boundary.
Okay, and for the record, but the changes this map has, now this map is not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but when I did 3 and 4, the numbers balanced out with the Hispanic population. There was no dilution of the Hispanic population. Very careful on that for 3 and 4. On District 6 and 3, it's I-4 and OBT is the boundary difference. There was a portion of District 3 east of I-4 by Cayley and by Cayley that was put back into District, that was in District 6, it was put into District 3. So the portion of District 6 that was east of I-4 is in District 3. The area...
Madam Chair, I would like to give Member Callan another minute to finish answering your question.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Then the Orange Blossom Trail, there's portions of District 6 that were east of Orange Blossom Trail in the same neighborhood where the commissioner lives. So I put that in District 3. And then going down to Orange Blossom Trail on the west side, which is the west line of District 3, going down to 528, the B line, and then continuing on OBT to the county line would be that. The portion that was Hidden Lakes, Whisper Lakes, that area up there north of by Hunters Creek, that area is put in District 1. That was all west of OBT. That was purely for numbers there. Right now, it's currently in District 4. Just as an approach, look at it, an approach to saying, what's going on in District 4 is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger the next 10 years. And right now, they have to lose 18,000 people. And so, in the District 4, the way it's shaped like a half a plus sign. And it just has areas that communities of interest, I think, are very varied there. So I tried to put the stuff, the established neighborhoods, the stuff that's then less 30 years old in District 3, draw the lines. District 3 would be OBT and I-4 to the 408. Then it goes down by Goldenrod Road, back down. And I think streets are important. I think streets give citizens clarity of who their district members are. I think it's clarity to the staff. I think it's clarity to all that we live in the area of Winter Garden that is north of 429, and we're in District 2, and the area south of 429 is District 1. I think those are important ways to draw a line. I think it makes it easier for people to know which commissioner represents them. It gives them better access.
Just to follow up, I want to make sure I understand. So up on the northeastern portion, District 6, you've moved the boundary west. You said up around Cayley and Orange Avenue. Is that a residential area, or is that
It's both.
It's commercial?
It's new infill development. That area is also part of the South Orlando Development District. My offices are down there.
Okay.
And so they have a uniform comp plan, City of Orlando, all in the City of Orlando. And there's a new SODO district they have there that extends from Michigan north to Lake Lucerne. And so this was a notch out in the middle of that. I think the hospital's there, and you have a lot of the residential development by the Target that's being infilled there, a lot of infill development. So I thought that was more appropriate in District 3 and put that there.
And then on the south border, or the southeastern border, I should say, well, western for 6, eastern for 3, that's residential, or is that commercial?
I kept the area south of, I think Williamsburg still is in District 6, and I kept the theme parks in District 6, the Universal properties in District 6 as well. So District 6 was enlarged slightly down there to pick up some additional population that was formerly in District 4. So you had District 4 running east of OBT all the way up to Christmas, almost to that area to the Econ River. And I think that's just from looking at the map and my history, my experience in Orange County watching it develop, it just seems District 4 had a lot of different communities of interest there. And I try to align the communities of interest from a development perspective, from infill, emerging development, rural to suburban. I try to align those because they may have more common interest to have one commissioner there. And that was the idea behind this. I'm not too keen on the map. Some changes I want to make, I mentioned earlier. I do think Commissioner Seward's comments about Bithlow Christmas, I went through that back and forth. And the times I've made that change, it's altered the number by 10% with Wedgefield. So I think at this point, since I'm not going to be here next week, maybe I'll just withdraw this map at this point, resubmit it. I'll work on it this week, and then maybe in 2 weeks we can see it again.
Yes, thank you. Member Rocha?
Just for the record, because I want to make sure that the public understands that we have a guide A, B, C, D, E here to follow. I know my committee member mentioned that we have 2 ongoing great relationships between a commissioner from the city and a commissioner from the county, and that's all fine and dandy. We all aim for that. However, this committee is not here to maintain commissioners working together. This committee is here to define the area with the voters and with the appropriate changes. So even though we're going to aim for the benefit of the community, and that for sure can benefit the community, but it's not our priority to keep commissioners overlapping. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rocha. At this time, we have concluded the items on our discussion agenda for this evening. I want to reiterate that at our next meeting, which is scheduled for November 1st at Monday, November 1st at 6:30 p.m. in District 3 at Colonial High School, we will have proposals 3 and 4 on the discussion agenda again, and give Member Whittington an opportunity to provide a summary. And at that time, we will, of course, hear public comment and receive from the committee at that time a decision with respect to whether or not those maps move forward. Also, proposals 6, 7, and 8 will be on the agenda for discussion, and I'm confident that staff will make sure that the materials are made public for everyone. Again, just as co-chairs, I think we want to just reiterate our apology, because that was absolutely an oversight, and I hope by now you all have heard us be very clear that public participation is important to us, and so our apologies with that. I see I have a number of names in the queue. Commissioner Hardage?
Yes, I had just one question of staff. I'm looking at the map that I proposed, committee map number 6, and I think it's the wrong iteration. So can you take a look at that between now and the next meeting? Thanks.
Member Arias?
Yes, I'd like to echo your words and also Member Whittington's words. I represent District 3, and for the public that is watching, I would really try to stress the importance of them to get involved, to get online, to look at the website, to contact me. My email is there, so the public is more than welcome. In fact, I'm inviting them to contact me at my email if they have comments that they want to present to me as a representative of District 3.
Thank you. Member Whittington.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair, and just wanted to ask a question with regard to the clarifications we needed on map 3. Would I be able to get with staff to make sure where those two little pieces would best fall before the next meeting, so that we'd be able to make that part of the presentation?
You should be able to do so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Member Callen.
I do want to thank the staff. They've been extremely helpful during the week for me when I call them, when I have problems with the computer and with the mapping, and the staff has been outstanding. So I don't want them to people walk out today thinking that otherwise. They've been outstanding. They've helped me a lot, so thank you so much. The other part is I'm not going to be here next week, so if I could provide written comments on maybe maps 6, 7, and 8, and if that's okay, I don't know how we distribute those before the meeting without violating the sunshine.
That has been included in our rules and procedures. That was one of the amendment that was made, and so Ms. Barrios looks like she's ready to advise on how that will happen.
4 business days before the next meeting, we could provide your comments on those 3 maps, and then we would send them out. Unilateral conversation is not a violation of the Sunshine Law, so as long as staff has sent them out and there's no further discussion on them by any of the committee members until the actual meeting, then that will be fine.
Member Hardage.
Yes, this is a question to the 2 co-chairs. I'm envisioning that at some point we are going to have to vote on a map or a couple of maps to send to the board. And I was wondering if the 2 co-chairs would be interested in scheduling a work session for us, so that maybe if we have several maps that we like, we could kind of work on, as opposed to trying to take votes on individual maps.
Commissioner, the co-chairs have got a meeting scheduled to try to work through what the procedure will look like to narrow maps down. It's been done in different ways in different jurisdictions. So once we have that meeting, which I believe is November 4th, and it's properly noticed, and if anybody wants to come, you're welcome to come. But we're meeting with staff to come up with a best practice to try to narrow maps. I would presume we're going to have 10 or 12 in the hopper that we've advanced. And I agree with you. We're not going to sit here for 3 days going through the process. So we will be figuring that out November 4th. And if we deem, or you all deem, once we propose our plan, that a work session is necessary, we'll certainly do that. But hopefully we'll be able to come up with the plan and save you the day.
Thank you. I want to encourage everyone. I know I have been taking copious notes as we share our input on the proposals that we received, and I encourage members of the committee to, just kind of keep a note, a set of notes of, what are the key pieces that you're trying to preserve or change as you evaluate proposals, so that, at the end of the day, there's kind of like a decision-making rubric that materializes organically. But again, as I say, we'll know it when we see it, but the more we evaluate, we can kind of hone in on the things that are that work and those that don't. I have 2 additional comment requests. Member Rocha? No? Okay. Member Alfont?
Yeah, let me clarify. The bringing up that the maps was not there should not reflect on the staff. It was something that I think was important to mention and put on the record. It was a mistake. I understand that. And in no matter have I meant that to be a criticism to the staff. The fact still remained that the map was not posted. The other issue I would like to bring up is I'm concerned that we might only be posting the maps and not the legal analysis. I think we should put the whole package out there so the public could have both the maps and the legal analysis.
Member Alfont, I absolutely believe that was the conclusion we made earlier, that not only will it be those maps be made available when they're informational, but as soon as the package for the discussion agenda is prepared, the full package will be made available to the public for each proposal.
Okay, that's what I wanted to close with. Thank you.
Yes, to clarify, the 3 maps that are on information right now will be posted map only, because we don't have the data analysis or legal analysis done on the website. And then on that Friday, when we send the information, the full package to the committee members, we'll also be posting that on the main website for everyone.
Just to be clear, it's maps 6, 7, and 8 will just be informational. Maps 3 and 4 have the backup that will be available.
And then we'll be moving map 5 to the withdrawn category. We'll still have all the information for it, but it will be in the withdrawn category because at the request of Committee Member Callan, it was withdrawn.
Agreed. Mr. Reynolds?
On that, so by tomorrow morning, by probably about 8:45 at the latest, all of the maps will be up, all the maps to date. It was an oversight with the last meeting, which led to the situation you're bringing up. But if you notice those things in advance, please contact me. We could have cleared. We can work through things a little bit sooner. You all have my information, so feel free to contact me.
In fairness, I noticed that on Friday at 5:30 when I received the maps, and then I went and posted. So, in fairness, I could not reach you on Sunday. So, just so everybody understands.
Co-Chair Perez, you want to give us some concluding comments?
Yeah, Madam Co-Chair. A couple of thoughts. Number one, the meeting started out a little bumpy, and I'm thrilled that we've got 15 people who are here to work together to figure this stuff out and who are flexible. Virginia, thank you for your courtesy throughout that process and making your presentation. Understanding we'll deal with it next week. I'm excited to see that we're actually getting some interesting consistency and parameters and drawing and what we're accepting and not accepting. And as I answered Commissioner Hardage, Camille and I are going to sit down and work with staff to propose to this body a methodology to get us down, assuming we have 10 or 12 maps, to a working number of maps for our second to last meeting, our culling meeting, and then our final voting meeting in December. So we'll hope you'll give us some patience on that process and then some substantial input. We want to do this as efficiently and as openly as humanly possible, and we're going to try to come up with that plan. But thank you for your courtesy and your patience tonight as we resolved these issues, and for agreeing to work forward together and, frankly, move the ball forward. so that next week we can have an efficient and effective meeting as well. And I would once again please ask you, if you're going to submit a map, sooner than later is really good. Sooner than later, really good. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. We have a second. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.